I'm Delia Garza. I'm the Travis County Attorney. We are the office that prosecutes misdemeanors in Travis County. I'm joined by Lucio Del Toro, who's my first assistant, who leads our criminal division, who is our trial director for our criminal division, and Leslie Dipple, who is our executive county attorney, who leads our civil division, because the county attorney also has a civil side as well. I wanted to provide an update on events occurring at the UT campus. Based on the information we have at this time, 79 people were arrested. Our office has received 65 cases for criminal trespass. We continue to review as they come into our office, but this large volume at one time puts a delay on normal everyday processes. Our office is working very hard to evaluate and process cases are received. There are many moving parts when someone is arrested, a lot of resources processing people arrested, and it takes time on a normal day, not to mention the volume that we're seeing now. Last week, we worked with defense attorneys who initially made the argument that there was deficiencies with those affidavits. That has not been brought to our attention this time. An initial review of the probable cause affidavits that we have received does not appear to show deficiencies. As I understand it, individuals are currently being taken into before magistrates, to determine eligibility for release. Yesterday, I reached out to UT leadership to initiate conversations on how the university could find a better way forward. We remain available to continue those conversations. While we understand the safety concerns, continuing to send protesters to jail on criminal trespass charges, one of the lowest level nonviolent crimes our office is presented with, is putting a tremendous strain on our criminal justice resources. I'm also deeply concerned about how matters will escalate. People believe they are being prevented from exercising their right to participate in nonviolent protests. The manner in which this is being handled is also having a great impact on our law enforcement resources. When large numbers of APD officers, for example, are sent to assist protesters for criminal trespass charges, that means less officers available for other calls, like domestic violence and assaults. As you just previously heard, we're also currently in the middle of an overdose crisis. The public safety of this community and for all the students, the public, our law enforcement is the main priority of my office. Cycling people in and out of jail on low-level charges and dwindling our criminal justice resources for the rest of the community will do very little to maintain the public safety of our community. It is not the role of the justice system to jail people for conduct that has not yet occurred or that might occur, nor is it the role to assist our governor in efforts to suppress nonviolent and peaceful demonstrations. In weighing what is the most appropriate course right now and in de-escalation, the cases we have reviewed so far will remain active for now as we continue to review and investigate to determine what the most appropriate outcome is. We are working with all of our partners to make sure the individuals currently in jail are being processed as efficiently as possible. I encourage university leadership to be leaders in this community by initiating a compromise with protest organizers with fair and reasonable free speech parameters. And I encourage the organizers to come to the table in good faith so that they can be heard. That's my prepared statement. I'll take a couple of questions.
I'll open up for questions and I'll call on you all as needed. We'll start right here.
So what's your message to protesters? There's other events planned today, tomorrow. What's your message to them?
You know, I would just ask that, to the degree possible, remain peaceful. I know there are concerns in our community of how sometimes just the presence of law enforcement can escalate that. You know, sometimes these things can get out of control. I was on city council when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening. It was incredibly difficult to watch people wanting to make their voice heard and then seeing, you know, police officers stopping that. So I believe people have the right to have their voice heard and to, you know, their constitutional right to free speech. This is an incredibly difficult time, challenging time for our community. It's a difficult subject, but at the end of the day, people have the right to have their voice heard. So I encourage them to do it in the most peaceful way possible. I know during Black Lives Matter protests, there were some protests that were, even by the organizers, that were stopped because of concerns of the people participating. And then there was eventually a peaceful protest, one in which I participated in myself. And so I just encourage people to do it as peacefully as possible and just to have their safety as the #1 concern.
Do you know how many students were?
I don't know that. I don't have that information at this time.
Right. So if you're reviewing cases right now, there's left active, when do you expect your prosecutors to come to a decision on whether you will continue with charges or dismiss the case?
Well, you know, cases can be in our office for some time. We're actively engaging with defense counsel if they're available for the people arrested yesterday and engaging with judges. And so we are part of helping that process of getting people released if they're eligible for release. I think that there's a misconception often in the criminal justice system that you're going to stay in jail. You're going to stay in jail for 2 weeks, and that's not the case. On a low-level charge like a criminal trespass, for example, if you have no previous criminal history, the likelihood is that you will be released on some kind of bond. And so, I guess what I really want her today is sustainable. It's unsustainable on low-level criminal trespass charges for us to keep cycling through the criminal justice system when I don't think it's helping the current situation. But at the same time, I understand the concerns. I'm trying to strike a balance here. I'm trying to strike a balance in concerns that the university has, but also believe firmly that people should have the right to have their voice heard. And you know, to be frank, I don't know if that's my responsibility as far as the university finding a way. There are other universities that have been able to have people. There was one at Texas State yesterday. There's been peaceful protests throughout this state and in our country. And so I think there's a way forward. We want to be available and part of those conversations to come up with that solution. But what we're seeing right now does not seem sustainable, and I to have that escalate, and then it's not just criminal trespass. Then it becomes, you know, more dangerous than criminal trespass charges.
You spoke to the backlog these cases are causing for your office. Could you speak at all to release times for people that are waiting for their friends and family to be released today?
I can't. I don't know where every single person is in the process. I know it's taking longer than it normally would. You know, if it was a 1 person, 2 people on criminal trespass, they may have already bonded out by now. But with the volume that we're seeing, it's taking some time. So unfortunately, I can't speak to what the timeline would be.
A few people who talk about the conditions in the jail, that they haven't had access to water and, you know, they've been on for a number of hours without having access to food. Can you speak to that?
I can't. I don't. That would be a question for the sheriff. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the jail right now. I haven't gotten a report about that.
Can you comment on the photographer, the news photographer that was arrested? Has that felony charge been dropped?
I don't believe there was a felony charge.
It'll be for the district attorney's office.
What's that?
This will be for the district attorney's office.
Oh, it's referred. It's in the district attorney's office because we don't handle felonies.
Okay. And then,
He had a
what's
criminal
different about
trespass
the
charge.
paperwork this time around? Compared to last week, what's different?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
Oh, what's different about the paperwork for those arrested
Oh.
yesterday? Why, is it more substantive?
Yes, it's more detailed, more substantive. We believe it meets the standard for probable cause.
Would be the last question right here, Dave.
Yes, did the government officials escalate the situation by saying these protesters are to be jailed?
Absolutely. It's very concerning. We're here, boots on the ground, working in the community, wanting to make it safe, wanting to make sure everybody, this balancing act, as I mentioned, to make sure people have their voice heard, and it does not help. Our governor, I don't know where he is, tweeting or whatever he's doing to escalate the situation. This is, protests are a hallmark of our democracy, and they are the place that these normally happen. I know there's concerns about, what the national effort is, but this needs to be handled on a local level, and I don't think it helps when state leadership puts out comments like that. It doesn't help. It does nothing for the public safety of our, nor does it help us as we're trying to figure out how to process hundreds of cases now at this point.
Your last question right here, Catalina.
I know you kind of touched on the subject that what cases could be in your office for days to come, but going back to the question about the dismissal, would it be safe to say that perhaps by tomorrow we'll know for sure if the latest people that were arrested have been trying to be dismissed or not? Because it's not like you can keep them in, like you said, you cannot keep them in jail forever, especially if they don't have any background of the criminal activity.
Well, I think that's a normal misunderstanding of the process. Just even if we keep it active, they'll still go through, could still be out of jail. A lot of people think just because you get arrested for something, you sit in jail. You don't. If it's a low-level, nonviolent case, you go before a judge determines, our pretrial services does a workup, does a risk assessment, is this person likely to come back? It doesn't mean dismissed, it means that they're just being let out while their case is being processed. And so as of right now, that is likely the case. They will bond out because a magistrate will determine that they're a low risk, these aren't high-level violent crimes, determines they're a low risk and that they can be let out. Their case still is, continues in the process. Most of these, like I said, if it's purely criminal trespass, no previous criminal history, will be released from jail by a judge, and we will determine how to handle that case going forward. But
The charges stick around, that's the reason.
yes.